I'm Ryan, and I'm a software engineer from the suburbs of Los Angeles, California. I'm 36 years old, and I'm going to tell you a story about how I lost my family, my fortune, and my future only to get it all back and more. They all believed I was finished. My wife Sarah sat just a few feet away from me, her legs crossed in a posture of elegant indifference. Her diamond earrings caught the dim light of the room, flashing like tiny menacing fangs every time she moved. My brother Ethan was leaning back in his chair with that familiar, arrogant smirk on his face, already calculating how to double the dollar. 10 million our parents had just handed him. The rest of my family, my aunts, uncles, and cousins, were scattered around the lavishly decorated study of my grandfather's estate, their faces a mix of feigned sympathy and thinly veiled greed. As for me, I stood alone and silent beside the heavy mahogany casket polished to a mirror shine, expensive and completely detached. It felt like a symbol of my own life at that moment, quiet, invisible, and utterly useless. At least in their eyes, I was nothing more than a ghost at my own grandfather's funeral. My father's voice cut through the respectful silence like a razor. "You should have done something more meaningful with your life," he said, his tone flat and dismissive. "You're not entitled to a single damn thing from this family." My mother, who hadn't looked at me once throughout the entire service, simply gave a slow, deliberate nod, sealing my fate. "Go earn your own," she added without a hint of emotion. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I felt nothing. I had prepared myself for this for years. But then I heard it, my wife's low, cruel chuckle, a sound that was far more painful than any insult. "Guess useless stays useless," she whispered into her glass of wine. Then a dry, deliberate cough echoed from the far corner of the room. The lawyer, a frail, elderly man who had been mostly forgotten in his dark suit, rose slowly to his feet. He held up a time-worn envelope sealed with a delicate wax stamp, a mark I immediately recognized as my grandfather's family crest, pressed deeply into it. "I have been instructed," he announced, his voice calm and precise, "to read this letter only after the will has been read and only in Ryan's presence." Every head in the room turned toward me. Their expression shifted from boredom to curiosity to outright shock. In that single moment, the entire atmosphere of the room changed. The air grew thick with a new tension, a fragile kind of fear. I used to believe in the idea of family and love and in loyalty. When I married Sarah, I was just a young man with a brand new tech startup. It was nothing but a handful of brilliant ideas and a lot of grit. She looked me in the eyes and told me she believed in me, said she wanted to help me build it. My brother Ethan, on the other hand, was already a major player on Wall Street, and my parents doted on him. They admired his sharp wit and his aggressive bravado. Me, they always told me I was too soft, too much of an idealist to ever make it in their world. Still, I worked. I dedicated 10 years of my life to code, caffeine, sweat, and silence. While Sarah spent that same decade living a queen's life on my dime, I was a ghost at home, just like I was in that funeral parlor. My parents constantly dismissed me, and Ethan never missed a chance to mock my efforts, but I just kept my head down and focused on my work until one night I came home late and overheard Sarah on the phone with Ethan, their voices barely audible, whispering and laughing. "He's just a placeholder," she said, her voice filled with a cold glee. "Let the fool build it, and then we'll take it all." I didn't cry, I didn't scream, I didn't confront her. I just listened, and from that moment on I started watching. I began meticulously recording every call I had with either of them. I dug through old texts and emails, and then I hired a private investigator. The evidence he uncovered was far more sinister than simple betrayal. It was a full-scale operation. I found offshore accounts, hidden assets, and a shell company registered under Sarah's name, all of it secretly funded by my brother Ethan. My wife and my own brother weren't just plotting. They were methodically dismantling everything I had built with smiles on their faces, so I decided to smile back. I quietly sold off exactly half of my company stock, then transferred the core technology and intellectual property into a new trust hidden behind multiple layers of legal fog. I wanted them to think I was spiraling out of control, so I started missing important meetings. I showed up late to work, and I made sure the board members were starting to panic. It worked. Sarah began drawing up divorce papers, and Ethan started charming my key investors, and I waited. The trap was set. All I needed was for them to walk into it. But what I didn't anticipate was a phone call from my grandfather's lawyer. My grandfather was a man of few words even when he was alive. But a year before he passed away, his lawyer reached out to me. Grandpa had purchased some desert land decades ago, a vast expanse of what was then considered worthless rock, but now that same land sat directly on top of a massive lithium deposit worth billions of dollars. He told his lawyer he didn't trust my parents and he certainly didn't trust Ethan, but he said he trusted me. So he had placed the deed to the land in a trust under my name with a set of ironclad legal mechanisms that would only be triggered upon his death. Not a single person in my family had any idea about it until that letter. The lawyer carefully unfolded the paper and read its contents aloud, his voice ringing in the sudden silence of the room. To Ryan, I leave the entirety of my hidden estate, which consists of 138 acres of mineral-rich land in Nevada. All mineral rights are intact, and the estimated value of this asset is $420 million. The room exploded. My mother let out a gasp, so sharp her glass slipped from her hand and shattered on the floor. My father shouted something incoherent, his face turning a deep shade of crimson. Ethan stood completely still like a statue, his face contorted in a mask of pure, unfiltered rage. Sarah's face went completely pale. The lawyer wasn't finished. Furthermore, he continued, I leave Ryan controlling interest in the Ryan Trust, which contains said land, its mineral rights, and a majority share of the family foundation. For a single moment, the world seemed to stop. The silence was shattered by a chorus of screaming, You son of a… Ethan lunged toward me. You manipulated him. Sarah shrieked, You're lying, that land doesn't exist. I just looked at her, not with anger or sadness, but with a cold sense of finality. Then I pulled out my phone and pressed play. Her voice filled the room, clear and cruel. Let the fool build it, then we'll take it. I let the words hang in the air for a long moment. Then I calmly pulled a set of documents from my suit jacket, the divorce papers signed and dated before our last anniversary. I slid them across the polished table, already filed. I said, You get absolutely nothing. She froze in place, completely speechless. There's nothing in my name. I added, Everything is protected. You can sue, but you won't see a single cent. Ethan lunged at me again. I'll ruin you, he screamed, but I just turned to him and said, No, you already did that to yourself. Then I gave a subtle signal. A second lawyer, a man no one had even noticed, stepped forward and handed Ethan a document. I watched my brother's face twist in fear and disbelief as he read the first few lines. SEC investigation. I said, my voice flat, Money laundering, tax evasion, wire fraud, all under your name. You set me up, he stammered. No. I replied, You handed me the knife, I just held up the mirror. The room descended into a total and complete chaos. My parents pleaded with me. Sarah cried hysterically. Ethan cursed until security dragged him out of the room. I didn't raise my voice, not once. I simply walked away. I walked out of that room with everything and everyone in it. Today I live a quiet life in a small town outside of Austin, Texas. I rebuilt my company under a new name with a new purpose and a team of people who care more about the vision than the money. I now fund scholarships for young entrepreneurs in my grandfather's name, and I never respond to my parents' letters. Sarah tried to come back once. She said she missed the real me. I simply told her that the real me died that night. I heard her laughing with my brother. As for Ethan, he is still in court, still denying everything and still drowning in the overwhelming evidence. They called me weak, blind, and a failure, but what they didn't know was that I was always watching, always waiting. They drew the knife and I buried it. I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. I'm finally free. And now when I look in the mirror, I see the man they never thought I could be, calm, ruthless, and finally done pretending to be anything less than everything.